Good morning. What will we talk about this morning? I think we'll talk about suffering. Suffering is big business, isn't it? It's big business, like, you know what I mean? Selling this idea of a tranquil mind, meditation courses, stupid books, I won't call them stupid books, affirmations and videos and courses and everything, and how to fix your mental health, and even mental health has now become a massive industry. Really, it's a massive industry, isn't it? And people just capitalizing on a massive industry. You can buy courses for anxiety and courses for depression and meditation courses and apps and fucking books and everything else, and it just but yet the whole thing seems to be getting progressively worse, does it not? Do you know what I mean? Of course, then you've all the drugs as well. If you both the off-market drugs and the legal drugs. So you have your benzos and D10s and fucking speed and weed and fucking coke and all the drugs as well. And it's all big fucking business, isn't it? Big fucking business. And really, at the end of the day, everybody's telling everybody how to fix themselves and how to fix themselves. But at the end of the day, the only one who can fix you is you. But then again, you see, that sounds really simple. That's maybe I'm oversimplifying that, but really, it's all about asking the right questions. And it's about some introspection, and it's about looking at others and stop judging them, but trying to seek to understand them. Because when you try to seek to understand, I'm not telling you what to do, because I'll tell you the truth, I hate this bullshit. But I'm just saying, I'll tell you how it is. If you seek to understand nature, if you seek to understand nature, then you'll understand yourself better. And when you can understand yourself better, you can examine your own life and look at your own life. And then, for example, why am I suffering? I'll give you a good head start on it. Desires, aversions. So, for example, your desires will enslave you. For example, I don't know, is marriage a desire or an aversion? Is marriage a desire or an aversion? Now, the universe asks me hypothetical questions. For example, would you get married? Would you get married? And it's not that I'm against marriage, but for what reason would I get married? And I'm not going to say love, because that's I'd have to get into the whole concept of love, and that's. But I would get married if somebody wanted a visa. So say I like someone and they were interested in person, they wanted a visa. If somebody needed a visa, yeah, I'd get married and they could fuck off then wherever they want. But that's to mitigate the rules of society and to mitigate the borders, which I absolutely have no problem doing at all, because I give two fingers to these rules. So if it meant mitigating the rules of any certain society, but then again, of course, I'd have to ask, is their passport anyway beneficial to me or conducive to the goal? But if it was, then I'd have no problem doing that. But that'd be a better reason than for me. That would make be a much more viable reason to get married than saying, calling it love, but really what you're doing is accommodating your own insecurities. You might be afraid you're getting older, or you might be feel like that you don't want to be alone or some shite like this, or you miss the boat if you don't possess somebody. If you don't possess somebody now to make it away. But I don't have any of these fears. I don't have any of these fears. So really, then it all boils down to really, well, you'd have to say, is it conducive to the goal? Is it conducive to the goal? And I don't mind helping someone out, but again, it has to be mutually beneficial. You know what I mean? Well, that's mutually beneficial. But for me, that's a better reason, because that's actually a valid reason, rather than just your desires and aversions, that you want to possess somebody, or that you're afraid of being left alone or being left on a shelf or whatever the fuck it is. You know what I mean? But I don't have these desires or aversions. So really, when it comes to the hypothetical question, that's nearly the only reason I can think of as to why I get married. Yeah, and then of course, there's the whole sex before marriage thing and all this shit. And the whole thing is you have to think for yourself. Now, really, the universe never leaves me alone and uses all these insecurities against me. But the whole thing about dragging insecurities up from the deep is that you face them and overcome them, even hypothetically, but you have to face and overcome them. And you have to actually be honest with yourself. And introspection means you have to be brutally honest. In other words, you can't mask over these insecurities. You can't mask over these insecurities. Now, maybe I'm sort of different, but I'm not really different, because really, like, you have to be well able to stand back and look at your life with brutal honesty and ask yourself, when these insecurities arrive, you have to be able to see them as such. And then you have to be able to say to yourself, am I burying these insecurities and rationalising them or using something different to overcompensate for these insecurities, or am I ignoring these insecurities, or I'm trying to pretend that they don't bother me at all, or they don't stand in my way at all. But I give them a lot of thought, a lot of considerable thought. And for example, like I suppose we could say we all have them, but to some extent you have to ask how they're impacting your life. But like we'd all have, say, both women and men have, in many cases, have insecurities over different parts of their anatomy. Like, I've often met women who are conscious about having small breasts. I've met men who are conscious about having small penises. But these insecurities, like you have to, it's very easy to say that they're not insecurities, but you have to, you could easily say they're not insecurities, but if you think really deep down, then you find that they are insecurities, because they're insecurities that the universe can use them against you in order to get you to act in a certain way or not act in a certain way. But for me, I'll call it out and I laugh at them. Like at this stage, I laugh at them. But this takes a lot of understanding. And this is what I want to say in this podcast. It takes an understanding of life and a different level of perception. Hemingway said, like, if you ask why am I suffering, well, there's a lot of reasons. As I say, desires, aversions, moral choices, and intent. What's your intent? What's your intent? What's your intent? Because if you're brutally honest with yourself regarding your intent, what is your intent for anything? Is it a codependent relationship? Do you need the company of others? Are you feeling lonely? Are you feeling insecure? Do you feel have you insecurities as regards social interaction? You have to address all these insecurities. You have to call them out and deal with them, or else they're going to stay buried. And if you bury them, that's a repressed thought. And then they say that if you take psychedelics, it frees up repressed thoughts. But psychedelics won't release suppressed thoughts unless you have actually somebody there to ask you the questions that need to be asked to bring these things to the surface. Because the thing about psychedelics is, yes, they bring entropy to the brain, but you have to develop new neural pathways and new ways of thinking, or otherwise you just go back to the same old way of thinking in about 2 weeks. So you stop using words like the linguistic programming. You stop using words like, so initially, say after DMT, you start using we and us and them, but then after maybe a week or 2 weeks, it goes back to I, me, myself, mine. Do you know what I mean? But you actually have to start. But you see, the whole problem with psychology is to start telling you, think outside yourself, think of others, cook someone else's meal, Maria. But if it's to serve your own selfish interests, then it's not effective. It's only going to create codependency. Do you know what I'm saying? But whereas if you actually have an understanding of the universe and an understanding of nature, then your whole perception in regard to this changes. Do you know what I mean? It's not actually about you. It's not actually about alleviating your misery. It's about living virtuously, but you have to have an understanding of exactly what virtue is, and you're not living virtuously. Like, this is the problem with modern Stoicism. They teach living virtuously in order to alleviate your symptoms, but really it shouldn't be. This is the paradox. It shouldn't be for alleviating your symptoms. You do it because it's the right thing to do. You do it because you have an understanding of nature. You have an understanding of life. You understand that everybody is the universe. Love the universe, and the universe will love you. But But first of all, before you can even go about this, I would suggest that you tackle all your insecurities, desires and aversions first. Insecurities would be aversions. So you tackle your desires and aversions first. And this takes a little bit of work and asking the right questions. But I don't think you're going to find these questions in stupid books. Stupid books that's just capitalizing on your misery. Like, how many of these fucking books have you read at this stage? And the next thing then I want to say, like, I'm just giving you different considerations and different perspectives as to why I'm suffering. Like Hemingway said, I'll give you, for example now, if your actions are in conflict with your moral choices. For example, I met a Vietnamese woman one day in one of the hostels. And I said, well, you're Buddhist, yeah. We was talking about a little bit about Buddhism and all, And I said, oh, you're Buddhist, yeah. And she says, yeah, oh, yes, I'm a Buddhist, And I says, oh, yeah. I says, do you eat live food? And she went off the handle. She knew exactly where I was going immediately. I just asked her a question. I said, do you eat live food? And she went off the handle immediately. She started going, oh, that's fresh. Who are you to judge me? Who are you? And I said, look at you. I asked you a question. I only asked you a question. But the thing is, as I said to her, I left it a few minutes and then I said, what about respect for life? You know what I mean? Respect all life. How is that respect for all life if you're eating live food? It's completely contradictory to your beliefs. But if you ask me, I'll tell you, like, it's not contradictory to my beliefs. I'll tell you all nature cannibalizes itself. But that's not that's my belief. But the Buddhists are respect for life. Respect for all life. And that most certainly wouldn't entail eating raw food, live food. Not my estimate anyway. How would you like that done to you? Would you like beaten alive? So, well, I suppose the mosquitoes do eat me alive, don't they? Nature does eat me alive, yeah. I'm alive, yeah. Mosquitoes do eat me alive. But therefore, it's not a contradiction to my beliefs, so it doesn't cause me any. But obviously, it caused her a disturbance because her actions are contradictory to her beliefs, to her morals. Do you know what I mean? So this is just an example of this. But of course, we can go down that path several ways. And then the next thing is Hemingway said that an intelligent person, a happy, intelligent person is one of the rarest things you can find. But the reason for this is, if you're intelligent enough to be able to process information at a certain level, you can stay feeding a bit useless shite all you want. Useless information that has no great practical application to your life. And all this becomes as a distraction, and all this useless information that you just stuff up your brain with books and podcasts. So therefore, if you want to apply any of this information, you have to search through a big pile of shite. Do you know what I mean? Whereas if you actually study one thing like philosophy, and you can get a deeper understanding of life. But as regards, like, someone's wife's name, or like as a man said to me here the other day, I gave him a quote from James Joyce, and he started saying to me, what's his wife's name? And I couldn't give a fuck what his wife's name is. What the fuck use is that to me, what his wife's name is? I couldn't give two fucks what his wife's name is, or what he had for breakfast, or what he had for dinner, or anything fucking else. I couldn't give two fucks. How is that of any use to me? This to me is just completely impractical information. But then, as Hemingway said, an intelligent person, a happy intelligent person is one of the rarest things you see. But that's because I have this experience when everybody used to be telling me to stay present. Because you read it in all the bullshit books, stay present. And it's like selling the tranquil mind, the idea of the tranquil mind. They sell the idea of the tranquil mind. They sell the idea of stay present. They sell the idea of mindfulness. But let me tell you, mindfulness, as they try to sell it, they tell you like, oh, mindfulness. But mindfulness, there's a whole lot of understanding that has to come before mindfulness. Because you can really, if you're an intelligent person, you have to change the way that you think, and you have to change your understanding of life. Because then, rather than being bored in the present moment, you're looking at everything, breaking down everything, analysing everything, and you see things from a completely different perspective, from a metaphysical perspective. And when you see things from a metaphysical perspective, it's completely different from the bullshit, no meaning, no purpose, this is all bullshit, superficial level. But you have to come off the superficial level and seek to understand life. But if you keep telling me I have a mental health problem and judging me, you're going to stay on this on a superficial level. Do you understand? I'm not. I don't have any issues that way. I don't have any, despite contrary to popular opinion, I don't have any mental health problems. You know, bye, may go.